Hi guys, it's Richardlizhu. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing this 2020 Aston Martin Vantage and going over the reasons that you should or should not buy one. Subscribe to this channel for more great content just like this. And let's get started. The Aston Martin Vantage is the entry-level Aston Martin, but even as such, the MSRP starts at $147,000. And this vehicle spec before you is $182,000 MSRP. Being the posh ride of 007, of course Aston Martin uses very cool names for their color options. This particular exterior color is called Ultramarine Black, and the interior color is called Dark Knight. As we come up to the front of the car, the first thing we see is the Aston Martin emblem. Putting on these emblems is the absolute last step before these cars roll off the assembly line. I also want to mention that to this day, each and every one of these emblems are hand-painted, which is apparently a selling point for Aston Martin owners. I personally would prefer machine painted, as I think they're good enough now, and it would probably be cheaper with fewer imperfections. We also can notice the iconic Aston Martin front grille, which is on all of their vehicles. This particular iteration was very divisive. Does anyone else think that Tesla kind of ripped off this front end design a little bit with their Model 3 and Model Y? To get into the hood, we need to get to the hood latch, which is in the passenger side footwell. Aston Martin is a British company, and in Great Britain, they drive on the right. When they converted the car to left-hand drive, they didn't bother to move the hood latch and left it on the right-hand side. Then to get into the hood, there's a latch in the middle, up here, and then you push it to the left. And it's a pretty heavy hood. And then you're in. When we open it up, we see the glorious 4.0 liter twin-turbo V8, straight from AMG. And this is actually the exact same setup as the AMG GT. You'll notice the brace is very similar to the AMG GT. We can see that the engine is actually behind the front axle, as far back as the engineers at Aston Martin could make it, which makes the Aston Martin Vantage actually front mid-engine, instead of front engine like your normal everyday cars. This gives the Aston Martin Vantage great handling, with a 50-50 front-rear weight distribution, which is also helped by the transmission being at the rear. On top of the engine, we can also see that the engineer who did the final inspection has their name engraved on a plaque, which is a nice special touch for such a special car. Now, you might be wondering why you see so much Mercedes under the hood, but it's because Mercedes owns 10% of Aston Martin, and as such, they give Aston Martin their engines and supply them with their last generation technology for their key fobs and infotainment system. As we come to the back, we can see that the Aston Martin is actually a hatchback. To open it up, just press this key on the key fob and it'll unlock. And then just stick your hand under the Aston Martin badge and pull up. And it's actually surprisingly heavy. So an added benefit of owning this car is you'll get swole doing it. We can see that there's a separator here that you can put up or down if you don't want people to see what's in your trunk. Or if you're driving in a city like San Francisco that runs rampant with car theft, you can put it down so that would-be robbers can see that your trunk is empty, so you don't get your Aston Martin's glass smashed. And then, starting from the back, we can see the iconic duckbill design of the tail with an integrated spoiler kind of device. And then, very distinctively, there's a Aston Martin swoosh, which mimics the front grille. On the sides, we have the turn signals and brake lights, and the third brake light is this section in the middle. The reverse light is not in this cluster at all, but rather it's this light down here. And over here, we see the bumpers, which are not as elegant, but these are required by the US Department of Transportation. So they have to be put here by regulation, which is similar to the ones that we see on the Bugatti Veyron and Chiron. So if you have an Aston Martin Vantage, you'll have that in common with the Bugatti owners. As we unlock the car by pressing this button on the key fob, we can see that Aston Martin did the flush door handles before Tesla made them mainstream. You push here and open it like this. This brings me to one of my favorite features about the Aston Martin Vantage. Viewers of my channel will know that I'm a sucker for unique car designs. So at first glance, these doors are normal and that they open outward, right? But at second glance, we can see that they angle upwards, and Aston Martin calls them the swan doors. And this is so that when you open the doors, they don't hit any curbs because these cars are sit pretty low to the ground. But that's not even the best part. If you've ever opened a car door, you know that they usually have a couple of spots where the doors naturally open to and stop there. However, because of the swan doors tilt upward, you can hear that there's a air pressure piston inside these doors, which hold them up at any angle that you want them to. So You can open them to any amount and they will stay there with some finagling. Until about right here. So you still do need a little bit of space in order to open this Aston Martin Swan door. The interior, which like I mentioned before, is called Dark Night, which is a nice, cool looking dark blue. One of the first things that we'll notice on the seats is the Aston Martin emblem on the headrest. Now, this option will run you a cool $750. And if it were me, though, I might buy a new flat screen TV instead. And as we sit down, we can see that the door handle is really just a grab handle, really. After we sit down, we can see that the door handle is very unique. And you either have to open it with your left hand like this, or open it with your right hand like this. Which Aston Martin claims is so that when you open the door, then you can turn back behind you and see if there's any oncoming traffic. We then can put down the visor mirror, and we see that it's pretty sizable for a sports car, which is great if the sun is in front of you. But if the sun is off to the side, you're shit out of luck because the visor does not disconnect and you can't put it to one side like most other cars. What's unique, though, is this crater-looking finger hole to open the mirror. However, we can notice that there's no additional light. So if you're trying to look at yourself while driving at night, then you're, again, shit out of luck. Now, if we try to go down and adjust the car seat, we notice there's no seat adjustment by the side of the seat where it normally is. Similarly to some Mercedes, Aston Martin puts their seat adjustment off to the side, where it's very intuitive to use, unlike my McLaren. Next to the seat adjustment, we can see this piece of leather, which is supposed to be a soft piece to prevent banging your knee, but really, it's just as hard as the surrounding plastic and doesn't really do much. Ow. Then we come to the steering wheel, and we can see that it's squared off, which is becoming more commonplace these days. But it's just one of those unique features that I'm a complete sucker for. The flat bottom makes it slightly easier to get in and out of the vehicle, and the flat top makes it easier to see through to the instrument cluster. And there's a perfect spot at either side, at 9 and 3, where you're supposed to keep your hands on these high-performance cars. Now, I never understood why car reviewers all do an engine sound check, because it all sounds the same to me. Nevertheless, let's take a listen to the glorious 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8. Now, Aston Martin, in all of their wisdom, the car starts in sport mode. You can adjust it to Sport Plus, and the engine exhaust no changes, and there's also track. But this is more, I think, of a marketing gimmick, because they could have easily named these as normal, sport, and track. Now, my friend was also telling me, if you hold the start-stop button, the car starts in quiet mode. But sitting right here, I can tell you that there's almost no difference between the volume between a normal startup and a quiet mode startup. Now, let's get ready to take this car out for a spin. Hopefully not literally, because I don't want to crash my friend's car. Yeah, overall this thing does 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds with a quarter-mile time of 11.5 seconds on its way to a top speed of 195 miles per hour. And it puts its 503 horsepower and 505 pound-feet of torque down to the rear wheels via an 8-speed automatic transmission. So yeah, as you guys know, this car was driven by James Bond, or Aston Martin is the brand of James Bond, and driving this car, you feel like James Bond. You feel like you're better than everyone else. You just know that there are people looking at you, and it just makes you feel better than everyone else. I always say that there are normal cars, that there are regular cars, and special cars, and this definitely falls into the latter category. I really like that the paddles are nice and big, and they're made out of metal, which is really nice for the fingers, and the actuation is very pleasant. It's not as clicky as the McLaren, but it's a nice paddle feel nonetheless. So yeah, if you're driving it in automatic mode and you click a paddle, then you just hold the right paddle just to put it back into automatic mode. because if you don't do that, it'll stay in manual mode and you'll have to shift yourself, like I just forgot to do right there. So yeah, just hold it until you see the PNRD and you're back in fully automatic mode. Despite not being a dual clutch transmission, the automatic transmission here is still very fast. We'll put it into Sport Plus. Wow, that is very different. When you're in Sport Plus mode, you really hear the grumble of the engine. And it really holds its gears. And apparently it does even more so in track. So this car is EPA estimated 18 miles per gallon city and 24 miles per gallon highway. But even on the least aggressive driving, you don't really hit those EPA estimated fuel economies. And also the Aston Martin Vantage, I've noticed, has a lot of brake squeal. You got a little squirrely there. On the left-hand side of the steering wheel, there's a button to stiffen up the suspension, and it really changes the handling of the car, for sure. So when you're in sport mode with the softest suspension, it's a very nice ride. But when you put it into track mode, it'll really, as I'm going to do right now, it'll really hold the RPMs. And the handling is really much stiffer. Yeah, it like holds it more than I would hold it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've reaffirmed my love of the paddles being on the steering column, because when you're going through windy roads like this, and you know your hands are not at the neutral position, you're looking for the paddles, and you gotta look for them. Holy shit, that's what it holds it at? It holds it in second gear.
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ. Dude, it holds it so much. Track mode is very intense. All in all, I think the 2020 Aston Martin Vantage is a great vehicle. I'm a little inexperienced with it, so I can't drive it to its full potential. But I think if you guys have the opportunity to, definitely check it out. Even at just a couple of years old, I think the 2020 version, like this car, you could get this car for $110,000, which is a bargain compared to its original $182,000 MSRP. So thanks for watching my review of the 2020 Aston Martin Vantage. Subscribe to my channel for more amazing content just like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. So now I'm in the passenger seat, and my friend will show me what this car can really do. Here we go.